Hey everyone, I'm this guy, Topnik from ActiveState. First of all, starting apologies from Adam, who couldn't present today. He's taken ill, and he had a really academic, probably very brilliant presentation ready to go, and I kind of stepped in at the last minute. This is something that is totally unrelated to what he was going to present today, but it's hopefully really useful to this audience specifically, because it's talking about using platform as a service that you can run in a really agile way and really set up anywhere and do stuff. I'm a technical writer by trade and sort of do a whole bunch of different things at ActiveState. I've been with them since 2001. You might know ActiveState from Perl or Komodo. And I try not to make this a sales deck, because I'm not selling you software here. I want to give you an idea of how platform as a service can be used on a smaller scale, so that people who are like doing startups or in an educational setting, a bunch of people want to get together and share application hosting somehow in a way that makes actually deploying applications super fast and not having to worry about provisioning the actual infrastructure. So really lightweight provisioning and application hosting for organizations that are also very lightweight. So I'm calling it BYO platform, small scale platform as a service. And a lot of people are familiar with Heroku, so I'm going to call it Heroku in a box, because when I'm telling people about Cloud Foundry or Cato at a conference, and I've only got like 2 seconds to try and communicate what the heck I'm talking about, it's like Heroku in a box that you can take with you. And so that's what we're going to look at today, but because I don't know the familiarity level of everyone here with platform as a service, this word is used so much in this industry, and it can mean so many different things. I'd like to just cover the basics of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about platform as a service. So the NIST has a like 2-page huge definition of what exactly is platform as a service. It's extremely detailed. I boiled it down to what I think they mean by that, which is the abstraction of application hosting from the actual infrastructure that supports it. So as a developer using something like this, you should be able to do the whole thing as a self-service routine. It has to be an interface that's designed with the developer in mind, and it's got to be securely multi-tenant, because the first generation, in fact, most people's conception of these things is the child of shared web hosting. Most platforms as a service that you will know of is shared hosting with other people who are not in your own company, or completely separate from you, and sold as a monthly subscription. Ours is a single, originally Tickle-based executable. Theirs is a Go-based executable. They do the same thing. They use the same API. You can create a manifest YAML file with a couple of entries. I'll show you one that just define what kind of characteristics you want your app to have. There might be some pre-push operations that you have to do, doing a bundle install, doing a NGET package for a Java application, and then you just push it, and hopefully everything works the first time. But if it doesn't, then you'll see the logs come through. So you'll be able to figure out what went wrong, and you can iterate very quickly. So, and then we'll see the application. And hopefully this will all work beautifully. So I'm in this directory, Staccato applications. You don't want to check out any of these. They are all available in GitHub. Organization called Staccato Apps. And so there's examples of all sorts of different languages. Some of them are third-party ones. Some are little demos that we put together. And just because I'm not much of a programmer myself, so I'm going to stick to Python where I feel most comfortable. So I've got a Django application called Django CMS. I'm going to I'm using Git to keep this stuff in. The examples are all on GitHub, but It's actually decoupled. So some of the passes use Git as the deployment mechanism. You have to use Git to deploy to a different target. We use an API client, so you can use whatever source code control system you want. It doesn't have to be Git, it doesn't have to be HG or whatever. So I checked out the latest in my code. Let's look at some of these files. It's a really simple app. This is actually the file that kicks it off. In most of these samples, you'll see a README file, and it just tells you something really simple, like this is how you deploy it to Staccato. Some of them go into more detail about what they are, what they're supposed to do, how to run it locally versus how to run it on a hosted platform. And the key thing here is the manifest.yaml file. So the first iteration of Cloud Foundry didn't have any configuration management format. How do we actually run Staccato.yaml? As a community, there's a lot of people developing on the Cloud Foundry code base that have decided on this format, which is the manifest.yaml. So we give it a name. We tell it how much memory the containers that Postgres application are going to have. We request a PostgreSQL database from this database service provisioning mechanism. We can set an environment variable. And in Staccato, not a lot of other systems, you can actually do some hooks before staging, after staging, and just before the application runs. Where staging is the standard mechanism the system's going to use for putting together the dependencies of that application. It's called staging. In the case of this, it's going to be the parts where the part of the process where the build pack runs. So it's going to fetch build pack from GitHub or from a local blob store. It's going to run those scripts. That's called staging. This is where we as a developer can step in and add stuff before and after that. Ignore files, run some things. I'm going to set up a demo user here that was going to log in. The Python build pack will have a standard process that it'll execute. It will expect there to be a certain kind of file there. We can either make our app conform to that, or we can write something called a proc file. That's another heroism. And we tell it what web process to start. So it's going to run Python, it's going to run that command, and we have access to some environment variables. So because we're running it in a Docker container, it's got a specified port. It's not going to be port 80. And something to consider in your application design if you're hard coding port 80 anywhere in the cloud that you don't get port 80 necessarily. So we have access to the port environment variable, and that's what it's going to start it on. The system will take care of actually running it. So I go Staccato target is the command api.demo.stack.test.io, and that is a URL, and it connects to that. It's the home of the web interface. It's also the home of the API interface, and it I'm actually logged in, but my next step would normally be to log in. And I think if I wanted to, I could change the organization. So this gets pretty epic within large organizations that have lots of different teams working. So we have this concept of organizations. You can be a part of multiple organizations. Within those organizations, there are multiple spaces. So there's a lot of different scopes you can work in. And the cool thing is that within any of the scopes, a certain amount of collaboration is allowed. So I want to collaborate with you on a dev project. You could both be part of the active test group or the training test group.
So is this just like random metadata that things like
Sorry, random metadata?
Is the organization like metadata that other things like interested?
Not usually. This is set up by the admin. So if you are going to set up something like this, and we'll get into setting up the whole system if you want, it's the admin's decision to say, oh, that's Bob's service. It can be called that. So what's the meaning when you choose